that is a two-way street because Donald Trump has been mad at you for a very long time.
Over a decade.
Over a decade.
Yes. Do you see I'm a little edgy?
Yeah.
I spend like pretty much 90% of my waking hours tweeting hatred towards this administration.
Yeah, well, now I want to ask you about this because, and did it sort of start? It started from The View, yes?
The View.
Yeah. And it's been really, we've sort of made the joke on the show that he's flip-flopped on everything except you.
Did you know Mark Burnett is sitting on a goldmine of secret Trump tapes that could change everything we thought we knew about the former president? Rosie O'Donnell just blew the lid off this scandal, and Trump's reaction was exactly what you'd expect from a man with a very strange, very orange soul. While America watched The Apprentice thinking they were seeing the real Donald Trump, behind the scenes, cameras were rolling capturing comments so shocking that they've been kept under lock and key. What exactly did Trump say that has Rosie wiping the floor with him now? The answer might explain why Trump has been so obsessed with attacking her for years.
Personally, came together and made a book, Duty to Warn, to tell the world what a narcissistic, mentally ill person he is. I think he's the worst thing that ever happened to the United States.
That was inevitable. Why?
Well, he is a cruel, criminal, and mentally unstable man. Psychiatrists across the country who don't ever really diagnose people that they don't serve personally. He is upset and humiliated and embarrassed. He has no control of the world, what a narcissistic, mentally ill person he is. And, you know, he is the kind of person that is a grifter.
This has always blown my mind a little bit. 91% that watch this show regularly haven't subscribed. Could I ask you for a small favor before we start? If you like this show, what we do here, and want to support us, the free, simple way you can do just that is by hitting the subscribe button. Remember when Trump was just that reality TV guy with the weird hair who'd dramatically point his finger and say, "You're fired"? Well, buckle up, folks, because that whole persona was faker than his spray tan and his weird little hand gestures combined.
Upset and humiliated and embarrassed, he has no control and he goes apeshit. You know, every single day he just grants my perception of him as oh, it's very interesting. I expect nothing but the lowest bar for Donald Trump. And
you know, you made jokes about him, that a man would go after you the way he did and call you the things he...
Celebrity Apprentice was not true. And Mark Burnett has tapes of him calling people every racist word, and he is an evangelical preacher to people who believed that Celebrity Apprentice was true, telling women to get down on their knees. Mark Burnett owns the cache of all of Trump's sick.
The Apprentice wasn't just some random show. It was a massive image makeover that fooled millions of Americans. Week after week, viewers tuned in to watch what appeared to be a brilliant, decisive businessman making tough calls in his fancy boardroom. But according to Rosie O'Donnell, that entire character was manufactured by producer Mark Burnett to sell America a complete lie. Think about it. Millions of people invited this carefully crafted fictional character into their living rooms every Thursday night. They weren't seeing the real Donald Trump. They were watching a heavily edited version created by TV producers who knew exactly what they were doing. It's like thinking you're dating Brad Pitt only to discover you've been catfished by your neighbor's weird cousin.
Drinking and kissing a girl, and it was on the cover of the Post. So he held a press conference right before The View went on live, and he said, just want you to know, I've forgiven her. And this young woman, I'm like, what is he, the pimp? It's actually very true.
Yeah.
You know, there was a Tara O'Connor, I believe her name was, a young Irish lass who was Junior Miss Trump Atlantic City pageant sexist winner. And she was downtown, 19-year-old girl. And she's the prostitute. And who is he? He's the moral arbiter of 20-year-old behavior now, right? So then I said, you know, some facts that I just went on Wiki that were easily accessible.
What's really wild is what allegedly happened when the cameras weren't rolling. Behind the scenes, Trump was reportedly spewing racist and derogatory comments that never made it to air. And here's the kicker. Mark Burnett supposedly has recordings of all of it. Yep, somewhere in a vault there are tapes of Trump showing his true colors, and they ain't gold like his tacky furniture. The editing team for The Apprentice must have deserved Emmy Awards for the magic they worked. They transformed Trump's rambling, incoherent thoughts into coherent sentences. They made him appear professional, when by all accounts he was anything but. It's like watching one of those home renovation shows where they turn a disaster zone into a dream home. Except in this case, they were renovating a personality. The contrast between boardroom Trump and real Trump is jarring. It's like finding out Santa Claus is actually your drunk uncle in a costume who's been stealing money from your piggy bank. The polished businessman who carefully weighed options before making decisions. That guy doesn't exist. The real Trump is the one who raged tweets at 3 a.m. about whatever Fox News just said. Just imagine what's on those tapes Burnett is keeping locked away. Former contestants and crew members have hinted at shocking behavior that would destroy the carefully constructed image. Racial slurs, sexist comments, temper tantrums when things didn't go his way. All the things that would shatter the illusion of the calm, collected leader. When you think about it, The Apprentice wasn't just a TV show. It was the longest running political campaign ad in American history. For 14 seasons, Americans were fed a fictional character. Trump the brilliant businessman, the guy who could fix anything, the leader who commanded respect. It was all preparation for a presidential run that nobody saw coming, except maybe the guy who created the character in the first place. The carefully manufactured TV persona didn't stand a chance against the unfiltered digital rants. While The Apprentice presented Trump as a strategic genius, his Twitter account exposed what Rosie brilliantly described as a window into a very strange, very orange soul. And folks, that window doesn't have any curtains, just an unobstructed view into a mind that makes absolutely no sense. Remember Kofef? That wasn't just a typo, it was a peek behind the wizard's curtain. Here was the supposed business mastermind who couldn't spell a simple word, much less form a coherent thought at 3 a.m. As Rosie pointed out, when Trump feels upset, humiliated, and embarrassed, he has no control and he goes ape. His Twitter feed became the ultimate confession booth where every insecurity and unstable thought was broadcast to the world. The contrast is almost comical. On television, we saw a composed businessman making calculated decisions in a fancy boardroom. Then on Twitter, we got the real Trump, the guy raging about windmills causing cancer, suggesting we buy Greenland, and attacking anyone who dared to question his fragile ego. It's like discovering that Bruce Wayne isn't actually Batman, but just some weird guy who likes to dress up in a rubber suit and scream at people. Even more revealing was his obsession with attacking critics, especially women. While The Apprentice would never show Trump's misogyny, his Twitter account made it impossible to hide. His years-long fixation on Rosie wasn't just petty, it was pathological. No stable person holds a grudge for that long over a few jokes. But there he was, the supposed leader of the free world, rage tweeting about a comedian at 3 in the morning because his feelings got hurt. Rosie didn't just roast Trump for these social media meltdowns. She recognized them as evidence of something much more concerning. Behind the laughs was a serious point. This erratic, impulsive behavior revealed a man nothing like the strategic thinker America had been sold. The carefully edited boardroom scenes couldn't have been further from the truth. The real kicker, Trump couldn't even handle basic spelling. Hamburgers instead of hamburgers, unprecedented instead of unprecedented, and don't get me started on his weird habit of randomly capitalizing words in the middle of sentences like some kind of deranged E. Cummings. This wasn't just funny, it was scary. If he couldn't handle basic English, how is he handling nuclear codes? His social media tantrums didn't just contradict the Apprentice persona, they completely shattered it. Every late night tweet about immigrants eating pets or foreign leaders insulting him revealed a mind that was nothing like the cool, collected businessman America had watched for years. That guy never existed. He was just good editing and camera angles. What makes this even more interesting is that Rosie didn't need any special access to see through the facade. While Mark Burnett was hiding tapes that would expose the real Trump, Rosie was pointing at his Twitter feed saying, "Hello, it's all right there." She didn't need insider information. Trump was telling on himself every day, 280 characters at a time. Psychiatrists don't typically throw around diagnoses for people they've never met in person. It's actually one of their most sacred professional rules. But something about our orange friend made an entire group of mental health professionals go, yeah, we're gonna need to break the rules on this one. These weren't just random doctors with Twitter accounts and political opinions. These were serious psychiatrists who contributed to an entire book called Duty to Warn because they were that concerned about what they were seeing. Think about that for a second. These folks spent years in medical school learning specifically not to diagnose people they hadn't personally examined. It's called the Goldwater rule, but watching Trump's behavior made them panic enough to trash their own professional standards. That's like a pre-skipping confession because the situation is just too dire. It doesn't happen without serious cause. What exactly did they see that freaked them out so badly? The same patterns Rosie had been pointing to all along. When Trump gets upset, humiliated, or embarrassed, as Rosie put it, he has no control and he goes ape. Normal people might get annoyed when someone makes fun of them. Maybe they'd fire off a snippy tweet or complain to friends. They don't typically launch multi-year vendettas that consume their every waking thought. The psychiatrist noticed Trump displays classic narcissistic traits, particularly his complete inability to handle criticism. Notice how it's always women like Rosie who seem to trigger his most explosive reactions. These doctors weren't just armchair diagnosing for fun. They genuinely believed his behavior indicated serious mental health concerns that could have dangerous consequences for society. Remember how Trump has held a grudge against Rosie for years over a few jokes? The mental health professionals point out that this kind of fixation isn't normal. Most people don't spend decades obsessing over someone who made fun of them on a talk show. It's like if your neighbor still seethed with rage because you accidentally stepped on their lawn in 2004. At some point, normal people move on. This is what makes Rosie's comedy about Trump so devastating. She's not just making empty jokes. She's highlighting genuine psychiatric red flags that professionals found so alarming they were willing to risk their careers by speaking out. When she points out his bizarre behavior patterns, she's not just trying to get laughs, she's echoing the same concerns raised by people with medical degrees. And here's where those secret tapes become even more intriguing. If Trump behaves this way publicly on Twitter, imagine what might be captured on Burnett's recordings. Those tapes likely contain moments where Trump faced criticism or embarrassment in the production of The Apprentice. Precisely the situations where, according to Rosie and these psychiatrists, he goes ape and loses control. What's most telling is that Rosie didn't need any fancy psychological training to spot these issues. While psychiatric professionals were writing books about Trump's concerning behavior patterns, Rosie was saying basically the same things, just with jokes attached. She recognized the explosive reactions, the inability to handle criticism, and the unhealthy fixations years before it became a topic of serious psychiatric discussion. Turns out Rosie's truth-telling didn't just earn her Trump's wrath, it revealed how deep the Orange Man's tentacles reached into the media world. When she called Trump the worst thing that ever happened to the United States on The View, she ignited more than just another celebrity feud. She accidentally exposed a protection racket that stretched all the way to broadcasting legend Barbara Walters herself. Picture this scene. Rosie drops some hard truths about Trump on national television. She mocks his business failures and his fake rich guy routine. Pretty standard comedy stuff, right? But behind the scenes, all hell broke loose. Trump, thin-skinned as ever, didn't just fire back with his usual childish insults. He went nuclear, threatening to sue ABC. Now here's where it gets juicy. Rosie naturally expected her boss, Barbara Walters, this supposed paragon of journalistic integrity, to have her back. After all, Rosie was just stating facts about Trump's shady business history mixed with a few jokes. But instead of standing firm, Barbara pulled the oldest trick in the showbiz playbook. She played both sides like a fiddle. In private, Barbara was all, "You go girl," with Rosie. But once Trump's legal threats started flying, suddenly Barbara was distancing herself faster than rats from a sinking ship. This wasn't just your regular workplace drama. This was a real-time demonstration of how the entertainment industry protects its golden geese, even when they're actually vultures. The most revealing part? Trump reportedly called Barbara directly to pressure her. Think about that. One phone call from the angry man with weird hair, and one of the most respected figures in American journalism folded like a cheap lawn chair. When Rosie confronted Walters about the betrayal, Barbara allegedly called Trump a liar, but she never said it publicly where it might have actually mattered. Rosie felt the knife in her back so deeply that she quit The View just months later. Can you blame her? Imagine coming to work every day facing someone who smiled to your face while stabbing you in the back to protect Donald freaking Trump of all people. This whole ugly episode exposes something much bigger than just a celebrity catfight. It shows how the entertainment industry created a protective bubble around Trump years before he entered politics. While Mark Burnett was busy hiding those damning Apprentice tapes, Barbara Walters was running interference on the talk show circuit. Different networks, same protection racket, What's truly chilling is how easily Trump manipulated these powerful media figures. One legal threat, one angry phone call, and suddenly principles flew out the window. If Barbara Walters, with all her power and reputation, wouldn't stand up to Trump, who would? This pattern of media leaders protecting Trump rather than exposing him created the perfect environment for his later political rise. The Barbara Walters betrayal wasn't just a footnote in celebrity gossip. It was a preview of how media institutions would roll over when faced with Trump's bullying. If Walters couldn't stick to her guns when Trump was just a reality TV clown, is it any surprise that parts of the media struggled to hold him accountable when he actually gained real power? Those hidden Burnett tapes are like the missing puzzle piece in the Trump saga. While Rosie O'Donnell has boldly claimed they contain every racist word in the world from Trump's Apprentice days, we're left wondering what other bombshells might be locked in Burnett's vault. It's not just Rosie making noise about this. Other celebrities and industry insiders have backed up her claims about Trump's true colors when cameras weren't officially rolling. Think about it. Those tapes might be the smoking gun that ties everything together. The Twitter tantrums, the psychiatric concerns, and the fake TV persona that fooled millions. Rosie isn't just throwing shade for laughs. She's been the canary in the coal mine all along, while Burnett sits on evidence that could reveal the unfiltered Trump. So next time you see Trump rage tweeting at 3 a.m., just remember that somewhere there's probably a tape of him doing exactly what Rosie warned us about years ago. The real reality show is the one we never got to see.